Afternoon, everyone. We're coming out of recess from our morning session. The time is now 1:01 in the afternoon. Rhonda, could you call the roll, please?
Here.
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 All righty. This afternoon we've got two land use items. One is pretty quick. It's just setting a hearing date for service plans related to the PUD rezoning amendment, which is our second item for the day, both related to what's currently known as Sterling Crossing, I think is to be known as Elora in the future. But I would accept a motion to assign a hearing date for Sterling Crossing service plans.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to set a date of January 24th, 2024 for a hearing date for the Sterling Crossing or Elora service plans.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to set a hearing date for January 24th of 2024 to hear the service plans for Elora. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All righty, so now we've got to actually hear a rezoning amendment in public hearing. It's PD 2023-2003. Once the hearing's open, we'll ask the staff to present. We'll invite the applicant to provide any other information. We may have questions of staff or the applicant during that period, after which we'll open for public comment. After public comment, we'll ask staff or applicant as appropriate to respond. We may have some more questions, and we'll proceed likely to a decision today. The decision certainly can be to approve with certain conditions, disapprove, or if we feel we don't have the information we need to come to a decision, it may be continued. But I'd like to actually welcome you gentlemen here from, I haven't seen you since, I guess, the concept brief a while back, and citizens that are here as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to staff.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, Mark Denrader, Director of Community and Economic Development for the Sterling Crossing Elora PUD rezoning amendment, case number PD 2023-2003. We have our contract planner from Logan Simpson, Sandy Hoffman, presenting today. And Sandy, I can hand it over to you now.
Before we do so, I neglected to actually formally open the hearing, so I would accept a motion to open hearing on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we open the hearing on Elora PUD rezoning amendment filing number PD-2023-2003.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to open public hearing for Sterling Crossing or Elora PUD rezoning amendment. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We're in public hearing. Sorry, Mark. Please continue.
That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Sandy, we are now ready for you to present.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sandra Hoffman. I am a contract plan reviewer for Elbert County. I work for Logan Simpson Design, and I will turn my camera off, and you should hopefully be able to see the presentation on the screen.
We can. Thank you.
As all of you have seen and mentioned, the case number is PD 2023-2003. I can get this to, there we go. The rezoning request is to change from PUD to an amended PUD, and the area of the property includes about 197 acres approximately. The location is the southeast corner of Delbert Road, County Road 1, and East County Road line, which is County Road 194. And the request is to change from plan unit development to an amended plan unit development, which will increase the number of dwelling units from 113 dwelling units to 308, and it'll reduce the amount of commercial acreage from 26 acres to 5 acres of commercial. And they will also be changing to a conservation community, which will require a minimum of 50% open space. The information on your screen covers the landowner and the applicant as well as the case number. There was a pre-application meeting held on July the 6th, in 2023, and the Planning Commission had a hearing on December 5th. In between the pre-app and the Planning Commission hearing, there was a community meeting that was held on July 26th of 23, and there were three different referral processes sent out to get comments from all of the different stakeholders. The notice for making sure that it complied with all of the requirements for notification have all been met, including Ranchland News, the mailing within 1,320 feet, on-site posting, as well as the mineral rights notice was also sent. This is a vicinity map of the property. It's in the sort of darker blue there with the word site in the middle of it. It's located within the unincorporated Elbert County and generally located at the southeast corner of Delbert Road and East County Line Road in the northwest corner of Elbert County. Douglas County's to the west and Arapahoe County's to the north. So the surrounding zoning varies. It's pretty much undeveloped land, large lot, single family. There's a master plan community to the northwest in the city of Aurora, and they have smaller lots, single family lots, and a golf course. East of Sterling Crossing or Elora is the Monarch Meadows large lot subdivision, and to the south is the Sky Rim North Pines large lot subdivision, and they have a North Pines Metropolitan District, and they are more equestrian type of development. So the PUD rezoning exhibit is on the screen. You can kind of sort of see the overall layout of it, where the predominant location of the homes and commercial will be towards the northwest part of the site, and the south and eastern part of the site is left in more open space, undeveloped. There's large areas of buffer located to the south and to the east. And then the open space also preserves a large drainage way that serves as a migratory corridor and provides passive open space for future residents in the surrounding community. Referrals were sent out, as I mentioned. There was opportunity 3 different times for people to provide comments, and the agencies are listed there on the screen. The comments that are noteworthy would be the Colorado Division of Water Resources. The water supplier will be the city of Aurora, and they have made verification that the water service agreement with Aurora has the ability to cover their water needs for Sterling Crossing, Elora. So the water supply is adequate per the Colorado Division of Water Resources. Douglas County was also copied, and they have an agreement with the developer for some funds to make roadway improvements and in the future for East County Line Road to the west of the intersection with Delbert Road. And the Douglas County school districts were included in it, and they have asked for some alternative uses and facilities within the development that can help accommodate early childhood education, career tech education, and special needs student facilities. So all of the issues have been addressed for the referrals that were sent out. The review criteria for Sterling Crossing, it meets the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan and the guides and standards in the zoning regulations. The details will be provided in the next few slides. The review criteria that's in the statute regulates and promotes innovative approaches to residential, commercial, and recreational land uses, and more than half of this property will be an open space, so it has accommodated that preserve area. They've also got some elements in there we'll go over later about addressing so that wildlife is protected, and they have a design that fits into the terrain and the area of the project. So the review criteria for a PUD is here, and I basically will go through it and over several slides. So of the 6, number 1, the rezoning conforms to and is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. And listed below are some of the comprehensive plan goals, including land use goal, which encourages a range of lot sizes and residential densities and encourages designation of open space and preserve area. And as mentioned before, they're providing at least 50% open space, and they also have a variety of different lot sizes and densities that are going to be included in the project. The commercial development goal is met because it supports the growth of commercial use that provides residents with goods, services, and employment. Transportation goal is met to strive and maintain a safe and functional transportation system, and the proximity to the arterial roads, which is 2 county roads, one to the north and one to the west. It's a special district goal is being met because they're going to be forming an economically sustainable special district that will provide the services there. and it's not going to be funded through Elbert County. Continuing on number 1, water and sewer and waste disposal. They're going to protect water resources and ensure that resources are available for the future. And again, the water resource will be coming from the city of Aurora. Parks and open space goal is being met, again, with the designation of parklands and open space that are being included in the project. And the wildlife goal is being met because it supports wildlife in the environment with a large open space area, minimizing the impact to the patterns of wildlife and their habitats, and making it a sustainable area for them to continue living. Number 2, the proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses. As mentioned, the majority of land around it is pretty much minimal development. To the south and east, where there's some neighborhoods, there's a buffer provided. Northwest of them is the city of Aurora master plan community that has a lot of smaller size lots and golf courses. So there's already a transition happening in proximity to this project, and theirs will then be blending sort of towards that, with the development of the homes and the commercial property being towards the northwest, leaning north, closer to where the Aurora master plan community exists. The proposed rezoning will not adversely impact the provisions of public services because the water and sewer will be provided by the city of Aurora. Also, the alternative school education uses are going to be helpful in the commercial areas. Excuse me. Number 4 is the rezoning will not adversely impact the environment. Low impact development is pretty much being provided because the majority is open space. All of a sudden, I have a tickle in my throat, of course. But there's going to be designed to work with the topography, and the wildlife habitats are being protected, as mentioned. Excuse me. The proposed rezoning will not create unreasonable traffic on the existing road system. There's 4 access points that's going to manage the traffic. There's an agreement with Douglas County for funds to pay for improvements in the roads. And there'll be trail connections that go to the regional trail system as well.
If you need to take a quick break, please do.
Thank you. I take a sip of water. All right, thank you.
You're very welcome.
The number 6 is proposed rezoning will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the current and future residents. So the allowable uses that are included in the plan will not be creating a lot of air pollution or creating disruptive noise. And preserving 50% of the area of open space will, again, minimize the surrounding development and provide a visually appealing buffer along the perimeter. So staff recommends that the planning, the Board of County Commissioners, maybe I put up the wrong presentation, that you will approve the following. It's in general conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. The proposed rezoning meets all the criteria for approval in the Elbert County zoning regulations. It proposed rezoning meets the requirements of the Elbert County regulations for a PUD, and the proposed rezoning will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and the landowners. Excuse me. Community Development Services Department recommends the Board of County Commissioners approval for the Sterling Crossing Elora PUD rezoning amendment with 4 conditions. What I want to also mention at this point is, after discussion with Elbert County's law staff, they have recommended a 5th condition, and I will cover that at the very end, towards the end of the presentation. So you will see what that proposed 5th condition is, but we will go through what was reviewed initially and what the Planning Commission approved with the 4 conditions. So the Planning Commission recommended approval to the Board of County Commissioners for the Sterling Crossing Elora PUD with 4 conditions. The concerns that were discussed during the Planning Commission included a variety of different things. Pull that up. Included, traffic was a concern. The IGA with the City of Aurora was a concern. Water, sewer, roads, and stormwater. They mentioned a potential annexation and basins of water flow that might go to the south. Excuse me. The Planning Commission did modify the 2nd stipulation that you will see in the 4 conditions, and they modify it to what the language will be. If you'd like to know what it was previously, I'd be happy to go through that. So of the 4 conditions that were included, the 2nd one was changed. Sorry again. You know, I haven't been coughing all day, so guys, I'm not sure what's up. The 4 conditions that must be met include number 1, you can read it, the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing sign. The second one is the IGA with the City of Aurora has been fully executed and has a condition of this approval of the City of Aurora shall be responsible for perpetual maintenance of water and sewer infrastructure once accepted at final inspection. And again, the language only modified to make it clear that there was already an IGA with the City of Aurora and Douglas County. And so this was to clarify that and improve in the correctness of it. The other 2 stipulations with the Sterling Crossing developer must send Elbert County Road and Bridge staff all plan reviews for offsite improvements. So again, Douglas County and the City of Aurora and Elbert County staff will be able to have a chance to review the improvement plans and provide comments. A trail graphic is going to be required to show the approximate location of each public trail and whether the decision is for a bike, hike, pedestrian, or horse trail. And so that shows the connectivity. So what additional condition that wasn't part of the previous review by the Planning Commission that was recommended by Elbert County Legal is that a minimum 60-foot setback must be provided along the west edge of the Sterling Crossing Elora project site. And so note currently the Sterling Crossing Elora Development Guide Standard of 23 identifies a minimum 40-foot setback along Delbert Road and has a 60-foot setback identified for County Line Road. But per Elbert County Legal, they recommend having a 60-foot setback also along the west edge of the project. Thank you so much. I do apologize for the coughing, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
No problem on that. Do we have any questions for staff at this time? Okay, so we have no questions for staff at this time. I'd invite the applicant up. I know some changes conceptually from the first drawing, I think based on community meetings, and so I think both in the community design and the number of access points, so I'd be interested in hearing about those as you present.
Okay, good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Dan Sheldon with Miller United Real Estate, 6900 East Bellevue Avenue, Suite 300, Greenwood Village, Colorado, 80111. So I've got my own short presentation I'm going to provide for you as well, and we can get into a few of the changes that you've seen since the concept brief. With us today are folks from my team, my engineer, my traffic consultant, planning firm, and I believe the owner is watching the stream online right now. Next slide. Our stakeholders, you're probably aware of all these, but we have been consulting with the City of Aurora. In addition to your Planning Commission and yourselves, we've been consulting with the City of Aurora with the IGA for water and sanitation. We've been talking with Douglas County about off-site road improvements, rattlesnake fire, and the fire chief about improvements and life safety issues. Douglas County School District as it relates to sending our kids to their schools and what we might be able to provide on our site for a potential school site as well. We've been consulting with the Elora Metropolitan Districts, which have formally gone through a name change now. They're no longer the Sterling Crossing Metro Districts. They're now Elora Metro Districts in preparation of this development project moving forward. And then the surrounding residents, some of whom are here tonight, some of whom are residents surrounding the property. Some of them are on the Douglas County side of Delbert as well. Next slide. My company, we develop subdivisions for a living, and we find places for people to live. We develop communities, and we're proud of the communities that we have developed. We work all up and down the Front Range, from Fort Collins down to Colorado Springs. The following slides are a short sampling of some of our projects, some of our recent projects. This is in Parker, the overlook at Cherry Creek off of Matzenbacher Road. Castle Rock, some townhomes, some commercial, and a fire station that we developed in conjunction with the fire district. This is in Commerce City. It's a mixed-use community with about 7 acres of commercial, which is almost about the same as what we're planning for this project here that we're in front of you for today. This is in Fort Collins, residential with a little bit of commercial on the corner as well. And this is a purely residential, single-family detached subdivision in Commerce City. And lastly, this is our Carl's Farm project, which is still building out right now in North Glen off 120th and Irma. And we've got apartments and single-family homes and duplexes and a senior site and a hotel and 8 retail pads on this project. One of the things that we do, as I think is unique, is we partner up with a local nonprofit in each of the communities in which we work. And we haven't solidified our partnership yet with the Elbert County nonprofit, but we are in discussions with them, and we'll be meeting with them here in the next few weeks to try to solidify it. But what it would look like is when we get to the finish line with our project and we start actually having homeowners moving in out there, my company will make a financial contribution to that nonprofit that is a local company or a local nonprofit in your community. We've identified that group now, and we're finalizing details now. So with that, I think that is the end of my portion of the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Mark, who's going to walk you through a little bit of the detail about our PUD request today. And I'm available to answer questions when we get to that point.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Grab my water. I know Sanders' mouth is dry as mine is too. So. I think it's contagious. Mark Kiefer with Norris Design. Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you for your time, at the 11th hour, so to speak, in 2023. We really appreciate your audience today and also those members of the audience that did show up also. Again, my name is Mark Kiefer with Norris Design, 1101 Bannock Street in Denver, 80204. As Dan had mentioned, I also wanted to just add a compliment to your staff, as I usually do, because getting to know them very well over the past 3 years I've been working in Elbert County, I have to say that what you have right now is a very, very professional staff and has really been very helpful to us and our team getting this project in preparation for you this afternoon. So with that, I want to just compliment Mark Dettenreiter and Sandra Hoffman, your consultant too, who has spent a lot of time with us getting it to this point and ready for a hearing today. So again, just to recap, I know that we'd like to get this moving as quickly as possible this afternoon so you can get back to your families over the holidays. But just to recap a couple points that Sandra had made in her presentation, our request today is for a PUD amendment. It's an existing zoning document that was done 16 years ago in 2007. A lot of things have changed since 2007. And part of that update process that we're doing here is really to bring that existing zoning document, the existing PUD, up to today's standards. And part of that is your code has changed considerably over the past 16 years. It's gotten a lot more comprehensive. I think it's been certainly guided by some members of the commission right here that have really taken it into a new place, and it has changed considerably since 2007. So one of the things that we're endeavoring here is to bring everything up to code right now in your current standards. And part of that is making sure that we're in compliance with the existing regulations concerning water. One of the things that we also wanted to do in terms of our update is modify the development standards that exist today. In the Sterling Ranch PUD, or the Sterling Crossing PUD, I'm sorry. We were just talking about that other project at lunch today, so it's stuck with me. So Sterling Crossing had development standards in it, but they were pretty marginal, including setbacks and things like that. So like if you look at setbacks along Delbert Road or County Line Road, or even internal to the project, they were pretty minimal. There really weren't any standards specifically associated with any of the development other than some internal lot line setbacks for residential development and things like that. So what we want to do now is add a significant set of standards, or development standards, which are part of the PUD, to include a lot of design standards and things that would relate primarily to existing parks and development within the project itself. The other big change that we would offer up is that we're reducing the commercial area that was originally zoned for about 26 acres of the project in the very northwest corner of the site, which is almost a pretty substantial portion of the project, which I'll show you on a plan in one of the next slides. But looking at how this project has evolved over time, and then also with Dan's expertise in the commercial development, we've also had several studies commissioned and an additional look at whether or not 26 acres of commercial is viable out there, at least for the next 30 years. We found that it's not, so we decided to look at a reduction in that commercial site to what we have right now at 5 acres. One other point I want to make too, which again, it'll show up in a next slide, but when we had talked to some of our neighbors out there about this reduction, I think that was very well received, because I think there was a concern by those who knew that it was 26 acres at one time. I think the relief, at least, that was expressed to us was that 26 acres of commercial out there would be very detrimental to their lifestyle, meaning lights, traffic, additional noise potentially from the site. So a smaller neighborhood commercial site was a lot more appealing to our neighbors, particularly in the Elbert County side, than a 26-acre site in that same area. The other change I'd want to point out too is we have an increase in parks and open space, as was mentioned by your consultant Sandra Hoffman. We're now considered ourselves a conservation subdivision per your code, so we're reserving about a little over 50% of the site to open space and parks. The existing Sterling Crossing PUD had really no provision for developed parkland. It was just several areas of open space, but it was much less than what we would have right now in that 50% rule. What we are showing, again, based on your existing codes and adopting those standards now as opposed to 16 years ago, what we are now including are developed parkland within the site, not only for our residents, but for the area residents as well. So with an existing increase in parks and open space, we hope that adds a pretty significant amenity to the people in that area. And then as Dan had mentioned too, we are also revising the metro districts. The metro districts that were approved back in 2007 were also approved with different standards. A lot has changed both in the state level of legislation, but also your own codes. So what we're doing is updating and modernizing that new special district provision or districts that were already approved and bringing those up to today's standards. So again, I just want to touch on the vicinity map again that you had heard from Sandra. This map here shows that the site is located in the very northwest corner of Elbert County. Across the street is on the Delbert side to the west is Piney Lakes. That's a project in Douglas County that's currently under development right now. If you've ever driven out there, you'll see public notice signs as well in that area. So it's still going through some subdivision processes in Douglas County. Immediately to the north is the city of Aurora with the Overland Ranch project, which also is undergoing construction right now. And then on the very northwest corner, catty corner to the site on Delbert and County Line is the Blackstone Country Club, primarily developed completely right now with the golf course in that area. One point too, and I'm sure I don't have to say this to the commissioners, but mostly just for the benefit of anybody that's not been out in that area, its proximity to E472 is very significant here. It does show how this traffic pattern is shaping up in terms of how we would perceive traffic moving to the north and northwest, primarily in the Smoky Hill E470 corridor, as opposed to coming south right now. I think that this is really an extension of what we would be seeing in terms of that next ring of growth in that particular area around 470. So a lot of our traffic studies and a lot of the modeling that we have done really does look at emphasizing that traffic pattern to the north and towards the west in this area. So just to go over what we had on the original Sterling Crossing PUD, just for the record too, I'm sure the commissioners know this, but a lot of your older records were flooded down in the basement some years ago. So what we did end up finding through the clerk and recorder's office, they came through Dallas, and we had found the original recorded copy of the PUD. Again, it's not of a great quality, so we had to reconstruct it graphically here. So this is a graphic representation of what was approved in 2007. So again, is just to go over it again, it had 113 lots. I'm just recapping a couple of the points that Sandra had made earlier. A little separation between the existing developments to the west and to the south. You can see that the yellowish, brownish area, that was the development portion of this project. So there was very little setbacks between the Sky Rim properties to the south and the rural residential to the west, to the east. We had large lots along the southern property line, and one point that I want to emphasize here, because I think this is probably one of the more critical issues that really could lead to the success, it will lead to the success of this project, is an agreement with the city of Aurora now for water and sewer. This original plan that Sterling Crossing had promoted two small wastewater treatment facility as well as a well pad facility. You can see the larger square in there, the lighter colored square, that was a sanitary sewer treatment plant. And then the smaller square up there was actually a well pad that was going to be developing the water and treating the water there. So it was a self-contained metro district that provided water and sewer. With this new intergovernmental agreement that we've gotten with the city of Aurora, all those services are now off-site and being provided by the city. So just to go over that, I think the other point that probably needs to be reiterated, and it has been brought up several times in the past, this is not an annexation agreement to the city of Aurora. This is an intergovernmental agreement, an extra-jurisdictional water agreement, or water and sewer agreement with the city, whereby they extend their water lines and sewer lines across county line, and this project is served by a municipal utility. That was vetted by the Division of Water Resources, and they also had the opportunity to review Aurora's water portfolio, which was pretty extensive, in that they basically had signed off on it because of that. If there was one big change to the Sterling Crossing project and what you're seeing this evening, this afternoon, is really how water and sewer services are being provided to the site. One of the conditions I think Sandra had mentioned too was an intergovernmental agreement that has been signed. That is also part of the record right now, that agreement is now executed between both the city of Aurora and our existing metro districts right now. Those metro districts, again, once they're re-upped, they are basically the signature of that intergovernmental agreement. So one of the aspects of this project that we, were directed by our client, Dan Sheldon, put a lot of emphasis on our community outreach in terms of talking to our neighbors, as well as the neighbors to the west and to the north in Aurora and Douglas County. We spent a lot of time with our neighbors to the east and to the south as well in Elbert County. So we initiated it by this community information meeting, which is a requirement by your zoning, but we had this kickoff meeting with our neighbors and basically walked them through the program that we had at the time. This was shortly after we had our concept brief with the county commission at that time. And then from that meeting, we had several outreach meetings with our neighbors and talked to both individuals as well as homeowner groups out there. And part of our commitment to that process, which Dan had had emphasized, is we set up our own website for this project, eloracolorado.com, where we had these meetings and other updates posted on a regular basis, including these public hearings. So through these conversations we had with our neighbors, there have been a lot of changes that have been made to this project. And one thing I wanted to point out too, the original application that you all had seen at the concept brief was the plan that's to the right of you on that screen, and I'm sorry, the left of you. That would have been what we were initially coming in with the application. We had estate lots again to the south, similar to the original Sterling Crossing project. But one of the things that had come up is, in talking to our neighbors, especially the Sky Rim neighbors to the south and our neighbors to the east, is this lack of separation between what their rural residential subdivisions have and what we were proposing. So then we went back to the drawing board after having several meetings with them, and that's what you see today. On the right, that's the current plan that's in front of you this afternoon, which you can see 109 acres of open space to the south. We took out all the residential lots, took out the existing access on Delbert Road. We had a third access point on Delbert Road, a little bit closer to the south boundary of our property. And then we added an additional about 130, 140 feet on the east side of the property, creating a larger buffer between us and our neighbors to the east. In doing so, what we did is basically consolidated all the development, kept the same lot sizes and everything. By the way, the lot sizes of this are very comparable to what we're seeing in both Douglas and Aurora right now. This really created a more compact, concise area that had much more of a open space buffer around there that really offset any impact from our neighbors. One of the things that I wanted to mention too is that this new plan that we have today, we have 5 acres of commercial property, 2 developed park sites. These would be park sites that would include improvements like tot lots, gazebos, playgrounds, things like that. Existing increased buffering between the properties to the east and the south. We now have 308 home sites within Elora, and then the new PUD standards, which we think will elevate this project much more than what was originally proposed in the Sterling Crossing project. One point I wanted to make before we jump into his conclusions, but there's a new condition that's been placed on the plan, and you can see on the commercial site, our 5-acre site right now, we've been working with a 40-foot setback along Delbert Road, primarily because of the unpredictability of what that right-of-way and final design is going to be on the Delbert County road corridor. So we felt that 40 feet was a good starting point right now. Certainly it would be defined further as we get through the subdivision process, the preliminary plat, which would be the next thing that you'll see, the next application you'll see. But over the course of how we develop the site, we will have better definition in terms of what that western edge will look like along Delbert. In this particular case, I think a 60-foot setback, if you looked at how that, I've got another graphic I can show you, it does take a big chunk out of that 5-acre site right now, and that's something that we would like to, at least the commission, to consider in this final condition that's being
If it adds some clarity, in my initial read, there were, it was right-of-way dedication. It was unclear to me whether we were talking from center line or entire right-of-way width, and there were two different, the County Line Road had a larger width than Delbert, so this is what happens when you ask a question.
Yep.
Things take on a life of their own. My understanding is there's no development on the west side.
There is no development on the west side.
My observation for many years is there isn't anything on the other side, so.
And on the north, along county line, that right-of-way has been fairly well defined, so we felt comfortable saying 60 feet is an adequate setback for the buildings on the commercial side.
Yeah.
On the east side, on the west side rather, along Delbert, that still is in flux. I think part of our next process that we would be going through the preliminary plat and the final plat is working with Douglas County to start defining what that edge would look like. So to answer your question, we really don't know right now what that final edge is to where we can measure it. It's not at center line, but it could be something else. There's also and not to get into the weeds here, again, it'll come up in the preliminary plat process, but that western edge of this property is I wouldn't say it's gray, but there are portions of it that could be interpreted as being in Douglas County right now. So one of the things that we would propose, again, in a future application before you and the Planning Commission, is defining that edge once and for all, and how that land would be either deeded to Douglas County for a future right-of-way, or kept in Elbert County through an intergovernmental agreement. But again, these are still issues that we still need to vet. And that
Understood.
40 foot versus 60 foot does make a big difference in our plan.
Yeah, and that, again, I think just one of those inadvertent questions that took on a life of its own, because obviously there's plenty of space on the other side for road width over time. I was going to say, and it just brings to mind the complexity. A relatively small project, but touching 3 other jurisdictions. Our agreements, we do not provide maintenance for the roads
Right. Well, I'm glad
adjacent to you, so, and don't have final design authority on those either, so it's kind of moot at this point. I asked the question because they were different, and they didn't.
Well, I'm
so
glad
they
there's an
have to be
appreciation.
the same. They just wanted to know the reason, so that explains it. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the recognition that this is a little bit more complicated than normal. Certainly not the size of some of the bigger projects you've seen lately, but it does have its own complexities to it. So with that, I think we can, we can also keep that conversation going as well. So just to recap, some of the approval criteria that we feel that we have met. The proposed PUD conforms to and is generally consistent with the goals and policies of the Douglas County, the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. So when I talk about one jurisdiction and another, I always get those mixed up. So in that regard too, in the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan, one of the things that we also have recognized in our planning here is really looking at your housing study too, in terms of how to provide for diverse housing and offer other opportunities for future residents of Elbert County to come in. So we feel that not only did we comply with the existing land use aspect of your comprehensive plan, but also your housing study that you've recently adopted, and we totally embrace that in this plan. We also feel that the PUD is compatible with the surrounding land uses, as Sandra Hoffman had mentioned. But just to reiterate, we feel that with this additional offset, or this open space to our south and to the west, to the east, that we would preserve some of the rural character, rural aspects of those subdivisions, and then more reflect what we're seeing up north and to the northwest of the site. The proposed PUD will not adversely impact the provision of public services. We have worked considerable amount of time with our, some of the referral agencies in this process. But one other point that will come up in the subdivision process through a subdivision improvements agreement is that none of these roads are being dedicated to the county. These are all privately maintained. The rights of way, as well as the maintenance and operations of of those roads are all within the district, so they're not encumbering Elbert County in terms of any additional tax burden or service requirements out there. The proposed PUD will not have adverse environmental impacts. We've, again, reiterate what Sandra Hoffman had mentioned too, what we had done working with the Division of Wildlife and some of the other agencies out there in the preservation of that open space tract. It's not an arbitrary area. It's a fairly well-known and identified wildlife corridor. So what we've also accommodated in the development standards are providing for fencing that would not impact or cause problems with migrating animals through that area, but leaving it as open as possible. It sort of relates to that other condition that's on the staff's report, which we agree with, we concur with, is that the trail system that we're planning in this area has to be designed in such a way so it doesn't necessarily impact wildlife down in that area. That was a commitment that we made to the Division of Wildlife, that we're not going to be just blading down there and creating a situation which would be detrimental to the wildlife in that area. And then the last 2 points, the proposed PUD would not create unnecessary or unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system without improvements. We feel like the site is really well situated both on County Line and Elbert. And again, as I mentioned before, its proximity to 470, it really does lend itself to moving traffic efficiently, again, working with the City of Aurora and Douglas County to the west through intergovernmental agreements in the preliminary plan and subdivision process. We feel like we can come up to a reasonable and mutual agreement how to manage traffic in this area. One other point, and I think it was brought up in the staff report but not brought up in the earlier presentation, Mr. Sheldon's already agreed to a $100,000 contribution to Douglas County for the improvement of a portion of County Line Road to the next intersection west of the Douglas or the Elbert County Line Road intersection. So at least that starts seeding that improvement in that whole area. One other point too, which we can't take credit for, but since we started this project, there's now a four-way stop sign out there, which is sorely needed. And I think that you probably have had several people in front of this commission, as well as certainly I know Rattlesnake Fire District and your Sheriff's Department have had complaints all the time about that. And it's a hazardous situation, and hopefully it's somewhat mitigated now by having a four-way stop sign out there. And then finally, the proposed PUD would not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. Again, I think all these points that we just raised, I think that these are, that's what we are working towards in terms of this PUD. And we would recommend, or hopefully ask your consideration today on this particular application.
Thank you. Are you the last of your team?
We are the last speaker on our team.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have questions for applicant at this time?
Yeah, each one of the subdevelopments has come before the county. There's been the concept of phasing it in. Do you see this being phased, or it's going to be a one-time does-all?
It's what we're anticipating in our subdivision process is one plat, one preliminary plat and one final plat. There will be a second plat for the commercial site itself, a site development plan at some time in the future, but there'll be a single subdivision plat associated with this project, so one phase. There'll be construction phases within that plat, but as far as the application goes, there is only one.
And of the commercial space, how much of it do you expect the school to take?
Thanks for the question, Commissioner. We have not made a deal with the school. The school is looking at it. School meaning Douglas County School District is currently looking at our 5 acres of commercial to possibly put in a early childhood center of some kind. I think of it like a preschool or a daycare. I'm not exactly sure if that's the right terminology, but they have not made a commitment that they're going to take a site there. And that was one thing I wanted to make sure in Sandra's presentation was clarified. it's not a done deal by any means with the Douglas County School District. They are evaluating it right now, whether or not they want a pad for an early childhood center. And if they did take a pad, it's probably not more than 2 acres in size.
Just one more question. The nonprofit that you were talking about making some kind of a transaction, a deal, or an association with, kind of give me a little more guidance of what you're talking about there.
Yeah, so it's a relatively new concept that we as a company have put in place, and maybe a couple of years ago we started doing it. Put this in perspective, I have 2 partners and 8 employees, so 11 of us total. We have 8 projects going at any given time, roughly. Could be 6 one time, could be 10. But each one of those projects that we go do, assuming that that there's a residential component to them, which obviously this is majority residential, we made a commitment to each other, me and my partners, that we are going to give back to the communities in which we work. We're being welcomed typically by the communities in which we work, and we are providing housing in those communities. We also like to give back in other ways and get involved by either making a financial contribution to a nonprofit, which we're doing in this case, and or other commitments to giving our time to other nonprofits. And if there's events going on that we can go and be involved in or contribute to, we try to do that where we're working. Did that answer your question?
Somewhat. The rest of the question is, of the nonprofits you want to work with, nonprofits do hundreds of different things. What kind of things is this focused on?
Typically housing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that everything we're going and doing is Habitat for Humanity or something like that. Housing to us means a little bit something different. It could mean putting clothes on somebody's back because they're having a hard time with housing. It could mean helping contribute to a food pantry because they're having a hard time with housing. But it's typically somehow connected to the industry in which we're in the business of, our housing, our community development. We like to be able to give back to something that kind of touches that sector of the business world.
Thank you.
Just kind of one question out of the design guide. I noted for the standards for the trail system were if it was a hard surface, it was a 5 foot wide, 18 inches wide for a soft surface, I'd assume a hiking trail. I guess in your discussions with Rattlesnake, I was just a little concerned about access for the ambulance or out into the open space, if that's probably not something that can be defined here, but I think it kind of goes with my other question, which was on the preliminary plat question or comment. I just suspect we'll see more detail on the trail system itself. I mean, right now we're just really talking the entitlement zoning piece. So if you could discuss a little bit more about the open space. Sure. And then the concern about access for evacuation, if medical evac if needed.
So certainly within the commercial, the developed areas, that would be a hard surface type of trail, and there probably wouldn't be a need for emergency vehicles to use it, although there probably could be some connections that would be similar in terms of additional easements or whatever that would provide for that. On the open space area, one of the things that we would be working with is in those areas that may require emergency services, we certainly would have that conversation during the preliminary plat and the referral process. At this stage, we're still kind of up in the air in terms of how that alignment works.
I appreciate that. I mean, just kind of the mental flexibility. What comes into us at what time? Often we see the preliminary plat with the PUD, so understand there's more coming before finalization. In terms of just general market absorption, once the project starts, you have a feel for how long you think build out would take?
Yeah, I'm guessing that this is probably around a 4 to 5 year build out, and that's for the houses, not the infrastructure. The infrastructure itself will take a year plus anyway. Once houses start going up and are being sold, and assuming the market conditions stay somewhat healthy, I would think it's probably a 5 year build out.
Any other questions at this time? Or? Okay. I'd like to open it for public comment.
Very good.
And,
And we'll have the opportunity to address some of that.
yeah, absolutely. Well, and for public comment, we'll take all public comment, and then generally we'll take a short recess so folks can digest what they've heard, the issues that were brought forward, and then we'll ask for responses. So, sir, if you could provide your name and address, and then please try to keep your comments within about 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
All righty, thank you.
Hi, I'm Gerald Garrison. I live at 11676 Stagecoach Drive. That's in the far northeast corner of Douglas County. We're going to put up.
Okay. We can wait for that to come up. It doesn't count against your time if that's.
The street I live on, Stagecoach Drive, is a residential street with a posted 25-mile-per-hour limit. It's also posted as local traffic only with signs that clearly say, through traffic should use County Line Road or Parker Road. Stagecoach is pointed out. We have an intersection there with Skyrim.
Okay.
And then just to the north, 8/10 of a mile. 8/10 of a mile will be the southern entrance to Elbert. I bet Dan Zierotro, he's tired of talking to me. No, not really. Okay, so Stagecoach Drive meets Elbert Road near the entrance of Skyrim. Also at that area is Rolling Hills, and there are 105 homes there. Thus, Stagecoach is now commonly used by those residents to go over to the west to get to the main road into Parker, which is Inspiration Drive. Everybody clear? Have I lost anybody in the weeds? Okay. So this use of Stagecoach by Rolling Hills and Skyrim has caused excessive traffic and consistent speeding. Almost all, and I've sat out on my back porch and counted it, I would say 99% of the traffic on Stagecoach are folks from Skyrim and Rolling Hills. Douglas County has counted that as over 100 cars per day. That's 100 cars per day with 100 homes. All of these cars are speeding. I want to drill that in. All of these guys are speeding. If you're going 35 miles per hour, which is 10 miles over the speed limit, and I have it happen week after week, they will pass you. You see that top of that kidney bean there? That's a blind curve. You can't see around it. But if you're going 25 miles per hour, they will pass you on that blind curve. When they get to that little open area between Roundup and Stagecoach, they'll open it up to 50. Comments? I got, okay, the Stagecoach residents feel that the situation has become too dangerous for kids on bikes, horseback riding, or walking along Stagecoach. We have enjoyed this lifestyle for over 40 years and we are very concerned that the large increase in traffic from 308 more homes in Elora will end these activities and put an end to our lifestyle. Therefore, we propose that the southern exit from Elora onto Delbert Road be a right turn northbound only. The southbound on Delbert Road into Elora will be an allowed left-hand turn. This proposal has 3 advantages and no negative effects on Elora. First, it'll increase the safety since cars will not try to cross 2 lanes of traffic to go southbound on Delbert. It'll direct traffic away from Stagecoach by heading it north, and we really want to help these guys get the traffic northbound to 470, okay? We can't support that enough. So if we get them turning right, they'll get used to going to Aurora and not to Inspiration Parker. And it has another third advantage. It'll stop the increase on traffic on Inspiration Drive, which is already overused and completely congested. So we look forward to working with Elora to resolve these problems.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anybody else that would like to make comments? Anybody else? Oh, ma'am. Nice to see you.
Commissioners, Linda Krausert, 44683 Lariat Trail. We had the pleasure of meeting with Dan. I asked him a lot of questions. I will just say that listening to him and listening to what was presented today, it's nice to have a developer that is willing to sit down and listen to the residents. And I am one that, I'm not anti-growth. I've been in Elbert County 33 years, and I've seen a lot of growth, and it's coming. It's just a pleasure to see developers come in and work with the residents and address their questions and concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? Okay, not seeing any in the room. We had nobody that had any statements they wanted written in. We did receive, I think, 3 emails, 2 of which were just generally supported and kind of echoed Ms. Krausert's comments, and the third was, I think, a concern related to the original design that had had 3 or more entrances on Delbert Road. And I'm not aware of anybody that wanted to be called to make comment. So with that, I'd close public comment. If you'd like to respond right now, that's fine. If you want to take a few minutes, we can take a recess.
Okay, if it pleases the commissioners, I think I'm going to bring up my traffic engineer for a brief summary about Mr. Yerison's concerns, and maybe he can help alleviate not only his, but the commissioners' concerns, if you may have any, about the traffic patterns.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Rocha. I'm with SM Rocha LLC. We're traffic engineering consultants located at 8700 Turnpike Drive, Suite 240 in Westminster. 80031 is our zip code. Just to be real quick and provide kind of a summary of months of conversations that we've had with Douglas County staff regarding cut-through mitigation as it would relate to what is existing now versus what is proposed through the Elbert project. We have worked with Douglas County staff. You should see some correspondence from Douglas County regarding this. Through very detailed conversations with them, they feel that they have an adequate program in place for addressing their resident concerns for speeding, for cut-through. They have tried some plans. They do have one of the plans is also having their sheriff's department on contact for mitigation of complaints of speeding and monitoring. So through our, trying to summarize our long conversation with Douglas County, they were asking nothing more of us as it relates to this Elora project. And also with the concession of removing the originally proposed southern access that was provided on Elbert, providing more separation for the south access in relation to Stagecoach. And with our overall traffic generation that is anticipated to be more west and northwest orientation out to Aurora and E470, we feel that there is just not the need to show any further restriction of the access, of the south access being proposed on Elbert. So very quick summary of our conversations and response. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do you have any?
Just making sure I understand, Delbert Road here is controlled by Douglas County. We don't have a lot of authority as it relates to Delbert Road itself in this area.
Correct.
And then, has Douglas County talked to you about turn lanes and stop signs and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so as we get closer towards Delbert and County Line intersection, yes, there is an overall coordination effort that will be done later on with the platting and construction plans for that intersection, which will be coordinated through Douglas County as well as City of Aurora. But that will entail some widening of the intersection to accommodate some turn lanes and et cetera. But those concepts have been discussed and will be worked out later on in detail with the platting process.
Just a comment, I guess, and for the crowd. Right now, we are just looking at the PUD and the actual entitlements for the number of homes and general placement, general layout of the community, both the residential and commercial piece. So when the preliminary and final plats come in, they'll also come in, I'm sure, with updated traffic studies, updated traffic control design, and as Grant had mentioned, this portion of the roadway we don't have the final approval on, but I would encourage those that have concerns just to stay abreast of where this project is in the approval process, and if there are concerns that are really, and I'm not trying to pass the buck, but these are generally concerns that have to be addressed by Douglas County, and they have to be comfortable with it. We're likely sending them some sales tax dollars with this, so they should have the ability to mitigate if need be with extra law enforcement. But thank you. Questions or comments?
I have a couple of clarifications. I'd like to make sure. On the our staff summary, at the bottom of page 2, it talks about the adequacy of the 300-year water supply with the City of Aurora as a provider and without causing injury to the accrued water rights. I don't know if staff can explain that a little further for me. I'd appreciate that.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commission members. This is Sandra Hoffman. I was basically actually just putting the exact language that we got from Colorado Division of Water Resources. And so there has been some history, and I'm sure the applicant could explain it a lot further and better than myself regarding legal issues related to water. But the basic gist of what the Colorado Division of Water Resources is saying, that it's what they're doing with the City of Aurora, it's not going to impact any existing or previous legal cases, and that was how I took it. And again, I would defer to the more experts probably on the applicant side.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good question. We were in consultation with Division of Water Resources for quite a while, for several months, getting to the point where we had a clean staff report. We had your own staff saying, yes, we're now satisfied. And this included our water engineer and I think the county's water engineer communicating with each other, saying that what we got from Division of Water Resources, State Engineer's Office, Division of Water Resources is a subset, if you will, of the State Engineer's Office. Anyway, they concluded that Aurora's portfolio of water was more than adequate to meet the county's 300-year requirement. And that is evidenced in your packets.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I know there's some transfer of water rights planned, but there's no wells to be drilled.
Correct. No wells to be drilled. Transfer of water rights happens here in about a month, and then Aurora has those water rights, and in return, Aurora will serve this new community, whereby we're not going to go drop any wells or straws, if you will, down into our neighbors' aquifers that they're relying on.
Yeah, and that's again another piece of the uniqueness of this project,
right, which is very attractive to me. But so I guess to clarify, then it says no injury to the Queen. It's not just to the Elora property, but to the surrounding owners as well.
No injury whatsoever. We are not taking any water out of the aquifer system, causing any injury. The only thing that's happening is the water rights, 270 some odd water rights are being transferred to the city of Aurora here in the next 5-6 weeks, something like that. That's the steps that it'll go through.
It seems to me it's beyond not just causing an injury, but it's actually protecting the surrounding water.
I would say that's exactly right.
And the other question I had also here, maybe it was a timing issue with the condition of approval number 2, that there be a fully executed IGA with the city. Was that not executed at the time the Planning Commission heard this hearing?
It was. It was executed back in mid-September. So it has been done now and seasoned for a couple of months. And so that, the language, so you know the backstory about it, we sat here in front of the Planning Commission and we wrote that language with your staff and the Planning Commissioners on the fly. Because it was worded a little incorrectly initially. It included some language about Douglas County in there, which did not belong in there. So we just cleaned it up. And really, I believe the intent of it is that when we get the infrastructure installed, when I say we, I'm talking about the metro districts. When our metro districts install all of that on-site water and sewer infrastructure and we connect on to Aurora's system, and Aurora then takes us through a 1 or a 2 year warranty period. And once we pass through that warranty period and they give us final acceptance, they then take ownership of all of that infrastructure and maintenance in perpetuity.
So I guess I'll ask staff then what the purpose of the condition was. It seems like it's redundant to what the IGA that's in place covers.
Chairman, Commission members, I think the concern that was mentioned during the Planning Commission was assurance that Elbert County was not going to have to be responsible for perpetual maintenance of water and sewer infrastructure. And so having this here, it makes it very clear. I don't know if the IGA language that they currently have makes it abundantly clear that what is going to be happening in the Sterling Crossing Elora development, that the city of Aurora it's clear that they are going to be the one responsible for it. And so this condition was intended to make sure it was documented and there. And I'm not sure if there is that language and someone's aware of it. Please speak up if you believe that current IGA has that stronger language in there that specifically confirms that the city of Aurora will be doing this for the future Elbert County Elora project. Thank you.
Yeah, Dan Sheldon again, Sandra. Our IGA, I don't have it in front of me, but almost certainly does say that the city of Aurora takes on ownership and maintenance in perpetuity upon final acceptance. That was the whole point of our IGA, and the man here who helped me negotiate the deal can kind of shake his head and say, yes, that is the case.
Yeah, that's,
Yes, that is the case.
But Commissioner, if it pleases the commission, I'm happy to remove it. I'm also happy to leave it in.
Well, I was just curious. It seemed like we had a redundancy there, but if
Probably
it's
so,
not a
but
problem, then it's
not a
not a
problem for us.
problem. I just was curious as to how that came about. Thank you for your answers there.
Yep.
And I guess I'd like to explore the 60-foot setback a little bit more on the west side as well. What we have for a concept here, does that include the 60-foot setback, or is this still back at the 50, 40 foot?
That document that you have in front of you, Commissioner, would be impacted. The commercial lots along Delbert would be impacted adversely with that 60-foot setback requirement.
yeah, if I may, to the west of Delbert Road on that graphic, it looks like there's a long, thin strip of probably dedicated space for Douglas County to expand the
I
road
believe that's
to the
correct,
west.
but because of the ambiguity about what's going on here with the county attorney request for the 60 feet and your staff asking for 60 feet, we don't really know yet where the 60 feet starts. So that's a little bit of a problem, and I'm not looking to you folks to answer.
no.
We don't know the answer yet either, and I'm suggesting we kick the can on this to our plating.
The plating.
Perfectly reasonable place. You have the final
I would agree,
approval
and
over our plat.
it was unclear to me whether that was
Yeah.
a center line, an additional from what was already dedicated, so that's where the questions were asked, but I agree that plating is where that becomes critical.
Yeah, we want to make sure that at the end of the day, if we think that 5 acres is the right amount of commercial to serve this community, and we do, my company who develops both residential and commercial projects, we think that that is the right amount of commercial. What we don't want to do is hamstring ourselves by putting a no-build line down the middle of the commercial along Delbert. That would be foolish, because then we're really talking about a pad or two on county line and nothing on Delbert. So you guys still have the final authority over it when we come in for our preliminary and final plat. Let's work it out then.
Just one more, I like that idea. One more question then. You said the Douglas County Schools had up to 2 acres, maybe up to 2 acres of what it's not formalized. So that in a sense reduces any other commercial space to 3 acres?
It would.
My math, 5 minus 2, 7. I got it. So maybe we want to look at that a little bit more at final plat as well. If there's an agreement in place at that time that's reducing true commercial for our tax base, we may need to look at that again.
Yeah, I got the sense from the school district when I spoke with them last, which has been a couple of months now, about this topic. Historically, we development community will either write a check for cash in lieu of a school site to a school district, or we will actually provide a school site. In this instance, we would be providing a little bit of both if it was only a 2-acre site that we were providing. By way of your own calculations, we would need to be providing more than 2 acres. Last I talked to the school district, it sounded like they were probably not going to want this site because of its proximity to their boundaries. It's on the very edge of their boundary, and I don't think they wanted to have something that didn't draw more of their own early childhood families rather than an Aurora public school or one of the other school districts. I think they're probably not moving forward on that, but it's still an open topic with the school district. And if they did come back and say they wanted that, we believe there really is 5 acres of commercial. We'd probably come back to this body and ask potentially to rezone a little bit of that corner up there, lose a few residential lots, bring in a little bit more commercial. But that would be a conversation, I think, down the road.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I was going to say, it looks like a tremendous site for daycare, a commercial daycare for people traveling.
Yeah, and that
to
may
and
be the
from.
case. It may not be a school district facility, though, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Any other questions? No, I'm done. I have no other, since, again,
Thank you,
we'll get
Commissioner.
another bite at the plating, so. Sir, we had closed public comment, sir. We had closed public comment, but we will be in the future hearing final and preliminary plating, which will definitely define the road network much more. So with that, I guess I'd ask if there's any final comments, and then I'll ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Sterling Crossing, Elora, PUD rezoning amendment filing number PD 2023-2003.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any final comments? Not hearing any. I just wanted to echo the comments we heard from a couple of citizens and appreciate the efforts you made working with your new neighbors in designing a project that fit your needs and theirs.
Can I confirm this without the 15?
Oh, yes, actually, I should ask if you accept conditions 1 through 4 as presented at the end of the Planning Commission?
Yes.
Okay. The applicant has indicated yes. And again, for a relatively small subdivision compared to what's going on in the region,
Do I have to amend my motion, or is that good enough?
I think probably a friendly amendment with the conditions as presented at the Planning Commission.
Does the applicant accept the conditions as presented, 1 through 4?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay.
I move that they be included in the approval.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve with the conditions that were presented at the Planning Commission. And again, just a very complex in terms of the multiple jurisdictions involved. We have roads that serve the community that'll be in Elbert County, but are under the maintenance agreements with the city of Aurora, with Arapahoe, with Douglas. Obviously, there's a lot to be worked up there. Though we're not accepting maintenance and upkeep of the roads within, because we really can't get to your community on roads that we're responsible for. So utilities, I think the water coming from Aurora with no wells in the county, and actually the first use of renewable water for homes within our county is a good step forward. Obviously, we have a Douglas County School District that'll be providing services. So again, I know this is a lot more complex than just a square on a map. So I appreciate your time and effort, and the staff's time and effort in making this into something that's actually very feasible, and I think will be very good for the county. So with that, we have a motion and a second. So all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. I'd accept a motion to close public hearing at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I move we close the public hearing for Sterling Crossing, Elora PUD rezoning amendment filing number PD 2023-2003.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to close public hearing on this item. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're out of public hearing. One quick administrative question. So does this mean it is now Elora? We never speak the term Sterling Crossing again? Okay. Thank you. All righty. We have no other business before us, so unless anybody objects, it is 2:25 and we are adjourned.
Goodbye.